As a way of providing a bit of a summary over some of the concepts we've been talking about over the lecture series, I want you to think for a minute about how you would answer the following question. Is democracy a property of the society, or is democracy a property of the state? Okay, so in order for you to answer this question, you need to think about a couple of different things. First of all, you have to consider what is the difference between society and the state. But you also need to consider some of the concepts that we've been dealing with over the course of the term. So for example, think about when I talk about democracy, am I thinking about this notion of liberal democracy? The idea that democracy is ultimately about individual freedom and personal capacity and the ability of the individual to behave in a way that they want to, or to receive benefits from the world in which they live? Or are we talking about this idea that democracy is really about some sense of shared benefit, about receiving benefits from the state? Or is it about being equal and be able to equally participate with others so that everyone basically participates and receives equally from the political system? Another way to think about this question of society versus state is to consider, if I'm talking about representation, how do you participate in the political system? Do you think of representation as being a personal thing, or is representation really about how we interact or how we engage with political organizations like the political party? If I think representation is personal, I talk about my personal right to vote and my personal right to participate in the political system, my personal right to freedom of speech, or my personal right to be treated equally by the state. But if I think about party-based representation, it's not really about what I think so much as it is about what the party thinks and how much support the party can get from different elements or different factions or different groups within society. Another way of thinking about this question of society versus the state is to think about what you consider the best way or the best form of political participation to be. Is the best form of participation one that is inherently competitive in nature, where political elites contest elections and compete against one another for control of power? Or is it really a deliberative one? Is it one where society comes together and thinks about whether or not we want a given outcome, or what best outcomes would meet our needs, or are we willing to deal with the consequences of a decision once we make it? Now, as you work through all of these different questions and all of these different issues, you're going to be weighing many of the concepts that we've talked about so far this semester, and ultimately, hopefully, that will help make a little bit more sense of where we are right now in this discussion of comparative politics, and also about where we're going to be going as we talk about some of the issues in the future.